Welcome to the Heart-Centered Sales Leader podcast on webtalkradio.net. Of course, I'm your heart-centered sales leader and host, Connie Whitman. Now, every week as you listen, I feel like a broken record. I really want you to start to shift that mindset that this thing, sales, right, no matter where you're coming from in your business, that sales is not icky, sleazy, and manipulative. We need to come from a place of love, care, and respect. And to help you with that mind shift, go to my website, whitmanassociates.com, and do /CSA for your communication style assessment. It's just going to help you understand how you're showing up from a communication perspective. It gives you the superpowers, and I think the blind spots are even more important to understand what isn't natural to how you communicate during your conversations with prospects and clients. So whitmanassociates.com /CSA. Now, my quote today is by Roger Dingledine. I probably said that wrong, but Roger says, if you care about privacy online, you need to actively protect it. So have you ever wondered what it's like to build your business the right way so that you avoid some of probably the biggest legal mistakes or pitfalls that are out there? And does the process of safeguarding your business sound so overwhelming that you haven't even started, or you kind of, let's put it on ignore, right? Or perhaps you think that certain big businesses, I just did air quotes for my Apple Podcast listeners, that big business strategies just don't apply to you. And here's the deal, guys. This is going to be an eye-opening episode. My amazing friend, beautiful guest, and brilliant attorney, Heather Pearce-Campbell, she and I are going to break down legal basics to help you more powerfully lead your business and make the right strategic decisions right out of the gate. And I'm beyond excited to share. Heather is, and I just love her mantra, website, whatever it is, but Heather is a warrior mama, nature lover, and dedicated attorney and legal coach for world-changing entrepreneurs. Now, she's based in Seattle. She's a mom of two little amazing munchkins, founder of Pierce Law PLLC, home to her legal practice, and the Legal Website Warrior, an online business that provides legal education and support to information entrepreneurs, coaches, consultants, online educators, speakers, authors, all around the U.S. only. Now, she has hordes of information. She hoards information, paper and books, while secretly dreaming of becoming a minimalist. You crack me up. And relishes an occasional rare night with her hubby when the kiddos are miraculously asleep and she can soak up HGTV without guilt. Please help me welcome my amazing, great, full of humor, Heather, to the show. You crack me up, Heather. Thanks for being on.
Oh, thank you. So good to see you again, Connie. My bio makes me laugh because it's like the biggest pipe dream is me becoming a minimalist, but I'm hanging on to it. I refuse to let that one go.
You know what strikes me the funniest about you? We met probably about a year ago, maybe a little less than a year. But the thing that strikes me the funniest about you, that you are so not that attorney kind of vibration. You're goofy, you're fun, you're loving, and you have this brilliant mind on top of all that. So like you're the full package,
Oh, thank you. I accept. I have a big, huge heart for entrepreneurs, and it's, business and law just happens to be the perfect overlap for me. Yeah. It's a way that I can solve complex problems. I have a brain that wants to be very busy. And when I can get to work on a problem that has lots of moving parts, different levels of priorities, it just brings me a lot of joy to help people be able to find solutions to those kinds of problems. So in business, I really believe that entrepreneurship is the path for change makers to create the greatest good in the world. We have such an opportunity to create influence and create income, which can also then translate to influence in our personal lives, in our public lives, however we want to share ourselves with the world. And I just think it's really important that people have the resources they need, including in the legal bucket, to take care of their business the right way.
And think about it. This country was founded by entrepreneurs, by small businesses, farmers, right? The local in the little towns. So that's really where we come from. And then obviously after the, Industrial Revolution, we have more corporate, more bigger type of organizations. But the reality is the innovation is happening in the small mom and pops where we have an opportunity to be more intimate. And I don't mean that in a weird way. I think with our clients, so we really see what's going on at this deep level versus just corporate talk and boardrooms. Not that the corporations don't have their place, but I think that's the backbone of innovation still in our country, again, in the United States, but I think globally now, because after the pandemic, we're playing in a bigger market, which is kind of fun and exciting in and of itself. So
yeah, well, and the point that you make about small businesses is really important. I want people to hear this because I think so many entrepreneurs and small businesses minimize their role in the marketplace because they just feel like this tiny fish in a really big pond. And, while partly that's true, the reality is that the collective power that we have, it's significant. 99, more than 99. It's like 99.8 or 9% of businesses in the US are small businesses. So yes, from a numbers perspective, we are the marketplace. From a GDP perspective, collectively, we make up 42 to 43% of annual GDP. So certainly the big corporations have a big footprint, but we do too as well. And what I want people to understand, that part that you just mentioned about small businesses having an opportunity to create more intimate relationships with customers, this is how change gets made in the world. Yes. This is, even the communities that you and I are a part of, the thing that I love so much about small businesses is we literally have the opportunity to create family out of our colleagues, out of our friends, out of our clients. It is more intimate. And it's like the other day I woke up, when you really get to know your clients and you're connected with your clients and you care about your clients, they're a real face, they're beyond just, some name on your list. Like I woke up last week, before I went on this trip, I was gone for 5 days, but one of my clients had been really heavy on my mind. And I woke up on like a Monday or Tuesday thinking like, I need to call this person. And literally, I'm in my email that morning and I get an email from him saying, sorry, I've not been in touch. My grandmother just passed away from COVID. Right. And it was just this knowing. And to me, that is an example of what happens when you're truly connected with people. Right. You have a level of like having a circle and being able to support each other in ways that big corporations cannot. So
I agree. It's funny, in the morning, I try to meditate right first thing before because my brain like yours, it's go, 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 right? As soon as I hit the ground, I'm running. What's the next thing I need to do to fit in and create whatever it is that I'm doing that day? So I kind of pause and I do a little meditation. And one day a name popped into my head. And I thought, wow, that was weird. I better email them. I wonder what's going on. And it was the same thing. I emailed them and they were like, wow, like, how did you know? You were on my list to call. I have somebody I need you to meet, whatever it was. And I thought, wow, like, how do you know that? You just know it because you do have these very deep, intimate, and I don't mean that in a weird way, guys, but a really nice, intimate relationship where we truly care about each other at the deepest level, beyond colleagues or like, what are we creating? How much money are you helping me earn? It's not about that, right? It's about that human to human connection. And it's funny, Heather, because you remember prior to COVID, everything I did was live. So I was really more East Coast than anything. Yeah. And now the show put me a little bit global, but now with the networking that we could do because of Zoom and not being able to travel, right? I have this whole global connection. I have friends now in England that like we text each other, how did you make out when you got the shot? Like stupid little texts, right? From England, from France. I have another colleague, somebody from India. So and you, West Coast, right? We're miles apart. And there's this wonderful connection of people that I've had the opportunity to meet that I never would have met had COVID. And listen, COVID was bad. I know, like you just said, your friend's, grandpa or whoever it was passed away, and it's heart-wrenching. But the opportunity that was created equally, I think, is just cool. And this is why the legal piece of the conversation is just so darn critical. So why do you see, because you deal with entrepreneurs, right? So why do you see that entrepreneurs and small business owners, they don't get the legal support probably that they should and need? What's the deal with that?
Yeah. Well, and it happens, just so we're clear on numbers. When again, prior to COVID, I'd always speak live, right? And I'd be at events and I'd ask people in the room, and it was always big groups of entrepreneurs, how many of you have a legal need that is unmet in your business, right? They know that they have a legal need and it's not met in their business. Like 80 or 90% of the room would raise their hand. And the ones that weren't were like, I'm sure I have one I just don't know about, right? But the thing is, when you get into the why of that, there's a whole slew of things that come up, right? So I think people generally have some fears around tackling legal stuff in their business. They fear what it's going to mean for their budget. Their fears around, are they going to connect with an attorney who actually understands their business and is going to be able to help them? By the time a lot of people connect with me, they're so frustrated because they've been on this journey of like trying to find somebody who understands their business model, and they might get somebody that understands, traditional business or can help them with business formation or maybe set up a contract or whatever, but they don't have the full picture. Most entrepreneurs are still missing the map. They don't know where they're at on the map. Yeah. And so there's a level of intimidation there and fear around getting help. But there's also just very practical considerations where, from the standpoint of things that we keep, I call it our, that list of like, I should do this. I should, of course, do this, right? I call it tolerations. In the coaching world, they're called tolerations, things that you carry around with you that you don't address. Legal is on that list for a lot of people. And oftentimes they're so busy doing other things in their business. And, and then you add the complexity of finding the right attorney. How is this going to impact my budget? You layer that on top. And a lot of people just talk themselves out of it. They say, oh, I've got great clients. That problem would never happen to me. I don't need to worry about that because I'm a little fish. There's so much of that kind of talk. I don't need to worry about that because I'm just a little guy. I'm not like Starbucks or Nike or some of these big international companies, so I don't have to worry about privacy. I don't have to worry about intellectual property. And it's just not true. It's, the reality is, and I just ask people this, the reality is it's not about your budget. It's not about what you think you can afford. It literally is about what can you afford to lose.
That's right.
And most people don't understand that until they're in that place of really facing some tough choices.
Yeah. Yeah. That could cost them their business, could cost them their home, could cost them, millions of dollars potentially, depending on the size of the business and how many assets you have. So there's a lot of moving parts. What do you see as the biggest legal risks that online entrepreneurs face? Because maybe they're not seeing the client live, where they say, well, I can't cause injury because I'm not seeing my people live, right? So, right. But there's still huge exposure on the online perspective, right?
Absolutely. And this is such a good question because, and actually, if we back up for a minute and talk about statistics, 60% of small businesses in the U.S. are sole proprietors. They have not even taken the step to set up an LLC, a C corporation, an S corporation. 60%. Wow. It's a huge number. I mean, it's the majority of small businesses don't even take the step to invest in a proper business structure. And a sole proprietor, some people think like, oh, well, that's a legal entity. No, it's not. As a sole proprietor, like you might register a DBA, doing business as, right? It's also called a trade name. That's just a way for the government to connect your trade name to your personal tax ID. That's why you have to register trade names if you're a sole proprietor. It doesn't actually set you up with a formal business entity. And so as a sole proprietor, if you don't have an LLC, a C Corp, an S Corp set up, what it means is that if something goes wrong and you own a home or you have money in your bank accounts, or you own vehicles, or you're in a community property state and you're married and your spouse has assets, all of those things are at risk.
Wow.
There's no separation between you and your personal assets.
Wow.
So this is why in the online world, this is a particularly big problem, because people think, just like you mentioned, oh, I'm not meeting people in person. I'm not doing these things that, quote unquote, typically have risk. So therefore, I don't really need to treat my business like a business. Not true. There's a whole different kind of risk in the online space.
And we have to be mindful of that, because here's what costs the most. You don't know what you don't know.
Yes.
And when you don't know it, that's where out of ignorance, it can cost us time, but a tremendous amount of money, or potentially assets, and even maybe down the road of bankruptcy. So it's really important that you do meet with an attorney to go through different things. And it's funny because you've really been on my mind. And it was the other day, your email came up. Heather does once a month. You do ask me anything, and it was just so funny. I was in my office and I was in between whatever I was working on or meetings, and I'm like, "Oh, Heather's going live in 5 minutes. Oh, I got to say hello." And so, I checked in, and you were like, "Hey, how you doing?" And while we were talking, I don't know what I had on my desk that I had gotten the trademark thing. And I thought, oh, I really just got on to say, hi, I love you, I miss you. And here I had a legal question, and you answered the trademark, right? You have to re-up it every 5 years and then eventually 10 years. And it was a scam that I had gotten. So here I could have ended up spending $1,200, $1,300 on nothing. The money would have gone to a scam. So we don't know what we don't know. And see, again, was that divine intervention, Heather? It was so, because honest to God, when I got on the call, there was no, oh, let me ask Heather this. It was truly to say, hey, how are the kiddos? What's going on? You doing well? And then I thought, oh, wait, let me ask her this. She's an attorney, duh, right? Let me run it by her. So things can cost us money like that. If I didn't have a friend like you that I could say, hey, what is this stupid thing? And people would pay that $1,200 thinking they had to re-up it. So out of ignorance, I think we can spend money. But not knowing what the exposure is, I think, is even bigger, because that was a tangible example. But what if there are things that we're doing? And I'll just share one more thing, because you have been on my mind. I'm rebranding. I'm redoing my website. I'm doing more digital stuff now after COVID. So my business has really shifted. But I'm building it yet. Like, I don't know where everything is going to fall, but you're on my list to call and say, okay, this is what I've created. What's my exposure? I don't know, because I did everything live. I had contracts that were, I come, I deliver, I do. If it's inclement weather, we can reschedule. I mean, it was all of that in a contract. What do I do now? So you're on my list as I'm building all these pieces and I'm solidifying with clarity of what's going on. Yep. I need you, because it's a different business as far as I'm concerned, right? So don't you see that happening too, where people are shifting that?
Yes.
Can you talk a little bit about that? I mean, I can't believe I'm the only one doing this, right?
Right. No. And you're not, people are having to shift. And this has been both the burden and the gift of COVID, right? So COVID hit, and people who had not yet been online, or been online in as big of a way as they wanted to, right? So it's partly why all of last year, all of 2020, as soon as COVID hit, which here in Seattle was early, I got back from an event in February, and I was like, this thing is coming over the hill at us. Like, we can see it coming. I yanked my kid out of school end of February, and then, by basically the end of the first week of March, we were in lockdown here in Seattle. So I started that week emailing my list and offering Ask Me Anything Live, because I knew we have to get people online. We have to get their businesses protected. We have to get them up to speed with, the analogy that I use is like, every day we go out and we drive around on the roads, right? And we are presumed to know all of the traffic laws.
Correct.
Whether we do or not, we are presumed to know those, just like any other area of law. It's true in your business too. You are presumed, everybody gets online, they're driving around online doing all kinds of business. They don't know the traffic laws, right? They do not understand the laws that apply to their business online, the vast majority, unless they're a business of the size that they have in-house legal counsel.
Correct.
They've got somebody to support them with that, right? There's advertising laws, there's privacy laws, there's contract laws. There's, so many areas of law overlap in the online space. There's consumer protection, right? We have the FTC, which is the online watchdog, and their workload has gone way up. It's so unfortunate that in times of pandemics and crisis, there are a lot of sharks out there, just like you received that letter that was a total scam. There are a whole bunch of people that try to scam people in crisis. And so the FTC has been even busier sending cease and desists and monitoring all of this online compliance. And so, my job, I tell people, you don't have to go to law school, but you do need to know how to issue spot in your business. And that's what I'm here for, is to give you the golden nuggets so you can see the issues and hopefully avoid the biggest potholes.
Yeah, and it's funny, last year, again, playing in this online world, I was taking a lot of classes and I was hiring people, but just because you know this, you're an expert, can you teach me, right? So you pay people for their time, which I'm cool with. And I bought this, I was on an online event and they had this person, and I won't mention names, but she came on and sold whatever she sold. And within 15 minutes, Heather, I realized that, because then she went in after you went into a private room and everybody was taking a break. I thought, let me just see what deadlines are, because I was very, very busy between my clients. I was doing digital training, but I was book solid and learning all this new stuff. So, I mean, my time, I was working 7 days a week. So she said, you have 30 days to use the service. It was 15 minutes after I'd made the purchase, and I said, no, I can't meet that obligation. You didn't say that. My apologies. So I sent an email to her saying, can I have the refund? What do you need me to do? I truly apologize for what a waste of everybody's time, to process this. And I was even willing to pay the fee that she might have gotten hit for the, this $2,900 purchase. Well, she wouldn't honor it. She wouldn't do anything for me. And so I went to my credit card that Monday. This was a Saturday, the Monday. And do you know, the credit card, they weighed in favor of her. So now I didn't get the service, and I have to pay the $2,900 on my credit card because I don't want to get hit with the that was from last September. I appealed it 3 times. So these are the things but what I'm saying is, now this person clearly, whatever her documentation was, number one, okay, legally, maybe she was protected. Good for her, right, on the legal front. And my feeling, I will tell everybody not to buy from her, because she couldn't even honor what I was purchasing. That's not how we do business. But see, when you have the legal pieces in place, how you can be protected, even if you're doing the wrong thing. So the message I'm sharing with everybody, Heather, is if you are doing everything from a place of love, care, and respect, and like Heather, doing everything right, bad people are still out there that run out of money and come back to you and say, hey, I want my money back. So we need to make sure that we have that legal protection, because you never know. People are funny, right?
Well, and this issue that you're talking about, right? Chargeback requests, refunds, what happens after the transaction once you have a purchase online? Most people contact me as the owner of the small business after the fact because they did not have any terms in place. They didn't have anything to protect them. And so they actually delivered the service, they fully delivered the thing, and then they have to give the money back. So it's the reverse of what you experienced, but it's awful for a small business to have to go through that, because there's so much energy and effort that's usually included in coaching and consulting services, right? It's a big hit. And typically a chargeback process costs somebody 2 to 3 times the amount of the original sale in time, fees, if they've got support that has to help them, behind the scenes in their business, it's a lot. And so the importance of, in the online space, having all of your legal documents in order, up to speed, you understand best practices, you understand how to achieve what's called constructive notice, which it sounds like this woman missed with you, where they actually get constructive notice of the material terms. Here's what's going to happen. Here's how you have to use the services. Here's the timeline, right? Sounds like she didn't walk through that or have it presented to you in any way that was meaningful or significant. So, there's a lot of steps to think about. And one of the big mistakes that people make is thinking, oh, I've got a template off the internet or from my friend,
Yes.
I'm covered, thinking that it's about the document. Having correct legal documentation helps. And the number of times that people get that piece wrong, I mean, I could go on and on about that. But having the documentation helps, but it's not all of it.
Yeah.
You have to understand best practices. You have to understand how to achieve constructive notice. You have to understand how this is one more essentially business system that
Yes.
supports your overall business, and you have to have all the pieces working cooperatively.
Yeah, and we don't know that. Like, I'm good at what I do, right? Teaching sales and helping people make more money from that perspective. And really, really, you help people make more money, keep more money, protect.
Yes.
I mean, it's so funny because yes, I help. Hopefully, I can help people make millions of dollars. That would be awesome. But on the flip side, by having the correct documentation, Heather, you can save people millions of dollars or losing everything that they worked a lifetime to achieve. This exposure is so real. And what are the biggest things so that everybody listening, especially, here's the other thing too, Heather, and I don't know if you're finding this, a lot of people that follow me are executives or even employees. They work in corporate America, but they have side hustles.
Yeah.
Side hustles, we're talking about you too, right?
Yes.
So you have all these side gigs going on. What is the exposure to you and your family and your assets? So what are some of the like typical things that you see people think, oh, I don't need that. Oh, that doesn't pertain to me. And it could be some of the basics, right?
It is. It often is the basics. So great question. So number one is privacy. You cannot be online building a business and collecting information without respecting people's privacy. That means having a proper privacy policy in place, knowing what it means to be collecting information and how to take care of that the right way. I get people all the time. I consulted with a woman yesterday who said, oh, well, I just have a landing page up, not a website. Guess what? A landing page is a website. The three functions that we do online is we publish information, we collect information,
Yes.
and we sell information, right? Or sell services that expose our information. You can do all of those through a one-page landing page, right? So people often, again, it's this idea of like minimizing. Well, I just do this little thing. I just, I don't have this huge, massive website. I just do this. Well, guess what? You still should have website terms and conditions, a privacy policy, and terms of purchase to cover whatever it is you're selling, because otherwise there is exposure. And you never know. All it takes, like the FTC here in the United States, because most people have heard of the GDPR by this point, which is the privacy regulation that got enacted a couple years ago and really changed the online business world, and was a particularly rough hit to small businesses because a lot of small businesses don't have the budget to implement some of the technology that the big businesses do to really comply with that law. That said, there are still some things that you can do to comply with privacy regulations, and most people are not up to speed with what that is. So privacy is a big pothole. Copyright is a huge risk for people, and especially if you've got team, if you've got somebody helping with marketing, helping build your website. Tons of people just outsource that stuff thinking other people know what they're doing, and suddenly their VA has taken somebody else's image off their website or somebody else's photography, and they've plugged them into an email campaign, and then they're getting hit with a copyright infringement lawsuit. Right? So taking other people's content, the basic rule is that if you have not paid for it, created it yourself, or have a written license to use it, you do not use it in the online space.
Yeah.
And this includes teaching other people's content, teaching other people's topics. The number of time I have people come to me and say, well, I'm a financial expert, but I really like working from these books. And I'm like, well, did you write the books? If the answer is no, you cannot be teaching from other people's content unless you have express permission to do that. You are commercializing somebody else's intellectual property.
Wow.
And giving them, they're like, well, I'm giving them exposure. That's not an excuse. That's not good enough. If you don't have permission to be using that content, it's not yours. Don't use it. So you can see how big of a pothole that one is. That's a huge pothole
Yeah.
for people in the online space. The other one is which we talked a little bit about, transacting sales without having terms of purchase in place, because you essentially have no protection in place for that income stream and that merchant account. So somebody like last year, I had multiple people come to me with $6,000, $15,000, $20,000 sales that they had made during COVID that then became caught up in the chargeback process.
Oy.
They delivered the consulting services, delivered the coaching. But the other issue we have is our consumers are becoming savvier.
Yes.
They know they can just initiate a chargeback request.
Yes.
They know that without documentation, you're screwed. So this is part of the issue that we all face collectively in the online space, is we have a more informed consumer today than we did yesterday.
Absolutely.
And this includes in regards to privacy. So, there's a myriad of other things, but those are some of the big basics that get a lot of people into trouble.
Yeah, and they're every one that you mentioned is just so important. It's so easy to miss a slice of what the requirements are, because I find it hard just to keep up with my business, just what I'm delivering and my clients and all the email. But I am very, very cautious with my email. Of course, I have the unsubscribe. But we're part of giveaways and all of these things. So we have to be careful, because I can't email someone unless they opt in to my email list. I can't say, oh, Heather, you're on LinkedIn with me. I'm going to take your email address and I'm going to start emailing you in an email campaign. I'm not allowed to do that.
Well, and
right?
this is a great point. So what you're talking about, and I love LinkedIn. I actually do a lot of connecting there, but I know exactly what you're talking about. So in the United States, the rule for the Cant Spam Act, which is our federal level anti-spam law, is you actually can send a commercial email to somebody who has not subscribed to your list, but you have to have an unsubscribe option on every commercial email that you send. Canada, not true. Canada, you cannot do that, and you have to have a double opt-in to have somebody join your list. In the United States, you actually can solicit business. Yeah, it's offensive. The part that I want to get to is that does not mean it's a good business practice.
Right.
And it irritates people. And when that happens to me, when I connect with somebody on LinkedIn and then suddenly I'm getting emails from them, and it's offensive. People don't appreciate that. So find a genuine way to connect with them and invite them into your world. Do not just automatically put people on the list, because in my experience, they're not going to stay there for long. No. Nobody's looking for more email newsletters to sign up for unless somebody's going to solve a problem for them.
Right. And yeah, that is so true. I've never, ever, unless I said to the person, can I email you? Even like an email, if I have to send something, do you want it here on LinkedIn, or do you want, just give me the email address? But I would never add them to my list unless they opt in for something that I'm offering, because that's inevitably what happens. Somebody follows you on LinkedIn or Facebook, whatever it is, and I'm on LinkedIn more than Facebook. And then all of a sudden I'll see them on my list. I'm like, oh, good, they were interested.
Yay!
Yes,
totally.
And that makes me excited. And the other funny thing, Heather, and I know you're the same with your list, because you were part of a giveaway that I had done. And you, I think, came out number one. You had more of your people, you do the 3 emails or whatever, right? You set it up on your active campaign. But your people were engaged and sought out the information because they trust you. Same thing. I have Natasha Tortodovic. I don't know if you know her. You know Natasha, right? Yep. And last time I came in 3rd in her leaderboard. And I was like, I did? I was so excited. But that's because my LinkedIn, Facebook, and my email list, they're engaged with me, because I don't send crap out. I really try to share a lot of good quality content. So, and then it's funny, I get people email me back to my emails, which I giggle at. One gentleman in particular, and he said, keep those emails coming, Con. Love your content, love your show, because I email my show out. Love the show, love the content. I always look forward to the new topic, of the week from you. So that it makes you feel good that that's what I want to build. I want to build a community, Heather, and I know you're the same way, that we're engaged and we're seeking the advice and information, from my network, from your network, all of those things. That's where the privilege, I feel, is a privilege when they follow me. But that's where the magic happens, that together we're finding the right people in our community to continue to build and grow and just share bigger and better out in the world, so we could do bigger and better things in the world, right? That's what we're freaking here for.
Well, it is. And again, this is one of the joys of small businesses, what you're talking about, it actually creating meaningful connection. Yeah. Last year, and we talked a little bit about how this year, like January through April, I was pretty much not, although I had my monthly Ask Me Anything Live, I was not doing my regular emails. Last year, it was like clockwork. If I missed a week, I was actually hearing from people like, I didn't see your weekly brief this week. And that takes consistency, number one. But it also takes respecting the rules. When you understand the rules and you bring a sense of personal ethics to your business, you get people on your list who want to be there. Yeah. You are not just throwing random people on your list and having, a crazy, messy list, which some people do, right? Some people really burn out their lists. And so, my job, part of the overall structure that I provide, and what I tell people is like, I know this is a better analogy, but I help grease the skids so that like you can go far and fast. That's what understanding the rules helps you do, versus like hitting all the speed bumps along the way. That's right.
Yeah, I know. And a lot of people out there in our space there, I have 10,000 people, and like, do you get any sales from it? Is there any engagement from it? Like this guy, I didn't even know who he was, and he sent this lovely email, and I responded. I go, "Oh, you made my day. I'm so excited. Let me know if there's topics you want me to cover." Right? So you have this genuine engagement with someone I've never met. I don't even know where this guy is from, but it was such a lovely, heartfelt email. That's the people I want in my community. That's the people you want in your community, and we can build that if you do it the right way, right? You don't want to, it's like anything else, Heather. You throw enough spaghetti against the wall, crap against the wall, something's going to stick. That's not how you do business. That's not how I do business. We try to be a little more strategic. We're out of time. Oh my God. I feel, there's so many more questions, right? But yeah, you're in my orbit. You're stuck with me, your family. It is what it is. But Heather knows this, right? We've been together for almost a year.
Yes.
Every one of you need to check Heather out. Again, it's so funny, Heather, too. Anytime I talk to any business, anybody, and they say, "Oh, I'm doing a site," I'm like, "Legal Warrior, got to check out Heather. If you need the introduction, let me know." And this is what I get. "Oh yeah, no, I know Heather." Like, of course you do. She's a legend out in the marketplace, right? I giggle. That. But yes, you're the only, and my listeners, listen to me. She's the only person that I recommend out there. Go ahead. You were going to say something.
No, I so appreciate that. Well, and getting back to your point about the side hustle, because I know your audience is made up of people who are professionals or have their own, a job going on, and then they're creating something on the side. Yes. Back to that first point we talked about having your business contained in a legal structure, because if you're doing business actively in the world and you're a sole proprietor, your employee income is at stake. Whatever's going into your bank account and coming into your life is actually exposed as a personal asset. So it's really important, even in the context of a side hustle, that you understand what your options are and you make a really informed choice that is applicable to your unique circumstances. If you don't have, that's a different conversation that we're having than with somebody who actually has acquired and built up some assets in their life.
Yeah. And again, we have to do that planning.
Totally. Am I okay to offer a free resource to people if they want to get some additional education?
Oh, I'd love that. Thank you. Yes.
Yeah. Well, because I know there's a lot of other things that we could have, dived into today, and there's, but I don't want it to feel hard, which is why I created this particular resource called the Legal Basics Bootcamp. It's a free bootcamp that I created, and you can go to Legal Website Warrior, just how it sounds, legalwebsitewarrior.com/legal basics.
Legal Basics.
Link page that gets you into this free bootcamp that Yeah, Legal Basics Boot Camp.
Okay.
And that'll walk people through. I have a framework that is called my 5-bucket framework for legal protection. It'll walk them through that framework and give them some tips and tools and places to go look in their business to make sure that they're doing things the right way.
That's wonderful. I'll put that in the show notes, everyone. So first, Heather's website is legalwebsitewarrior.com. If you have questions specifically for Heather and you want to have a conversation, again, I recommend her highly. It's info@legalwebsitewarrior.com. And then the free resource is, or the free resource is legalwebsitewarrior.com/legal basics with an S boot camp. Just boot camp. That's it.
Just boot camp. That's right.
Okay. I'll put that in the show notes as well. Thank you so much. That's lovely of you to offer that. I so appreciate it. I so appreciate you. I just love spending time with you.
Well, the feeling's mutual. And if you guys want to hear a great conversation that Connie and I had on my podcast, because you were one of my favorite podcast guests, we had a fabulous conversation. And I highly recommend that the resource Connie mentioned at the very beginning of her episode, the CSA, you go get and check out. It's such a fun exercise to do. But my podcast is Guts, Grit, and Great Business. And Connie and I had an awesome conversation on there.
Yes.
So I'm just going to put a plug in for you there.
Thank you. Yes, that was fun. And again, brilliant, just brilliant. You're just brilliant to hang out with. So thank you. Thank you for being you. Thank you for being on my show. Thank you for sharing your brilliance and just what wonderful information for my listeners. And even again, my corporate listeners that have that side hustle. Super important, Heather. Mm-hmm. As always, just love spending time with you. Truly, truly enjoy you. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, Connie. So great to be here.
Always a pleasure. And you guys, I hope you will join me weekly as we question, build, and discover that no matter where you are in business, my guests and I, we really are here to try to give you strategies, tips, ideas, and just things for you to be aware of and mindful of. So we try to get rid of those blind spots for you so that we can protect you. Because sometimes we just need protection from our own ignorance or unknowing, right? So again, I hope my guests and I provide those tips and strategies that you can implement immediately and hopefully change your life and your business and your clients' lives as well. Thank you for joining me, Heather. Thank you all for joining and listening to the Heart-Centered Sales Leader podcast with me, your Heart-Centered Sales Leader and host, Connie Whitman, on webtalkradio.net. Again, everyone, you know I love having you with me. I truly am honored to have you on this journey with me. And tune in next week. You know I'm going to have another great guest with great content, and hopefully we can make changes in your life that will just make life easier. And that's always what I'm looking for. So have a great week, everybody. Thanks again for tuning in. Bye.